This is Charlie Rose.
Cate Blanchett is here. She won the Oscar for her portrayal of Katharine Hepburn in Martin Scorsese's The Aviator. This season, she appears in 2 films. First, she reunites with director Shekhar Kapoor for Elizabeth, The Golden Age. Then she interprets Bob Dylan in Todd Haynes' I'm Not There. At the Venice Film Festival, Cate won a Best Actress award for this role. Here is a look at her in both.
Go. Do you think it's the process itself that's at fault?
Who cares what I think? I'm not the president. I'm just a storyteller, man. That's all I am.
Well, I presume at the very least that you care something about what you sing every night.
Well, how can I answer that if you got the nerve to ask me?
You know, I am convinced of one thing. You either do truly care about nothing at all, or tremendously much that people think so.
And you ask for my time?
Mr. Quinn, we really do need you.
Listen, I know more about you, right, than you will ever know about me. Slaughter me for all I care. I refuse to be hurt.
You refuse feeling deeply about anything when it's clear to anyone how entirely self-conscious you are.
Well, what precisely, please do tell, am I supposed to be feeling, huh?
I'm simply referring to standard emotions, pain, remorse, love.
Yeah, I have none of those feelings.
In January, she, along with her husband, playwright Andrew Upton, will be co-artistic directors of the Sydney Theatre Company. I am pleased to have Cate Blanchett back to this table. Welcome.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, exactly. Any reservations about going back to Elizabeth?
Many, many reservations. I mean, I think because it was such a turning point for me in a lot of ways, in retrospect. I mean, it opened up the possibility of having an international career. And it was such the muscles that one had to exercise to take on that role were huge. And I'd probably been working in reaction to it for quite some time. And I'm not interested in going backwards. So I wanted to make sure that if I was returning to it, like when you return to a role on stage, that it was actually progressing me forward somewhere. And then I had something else to say.
What else did you have to say?
I don't know. Something, I hope. I said a lot of things very loudly.
Just look at the performance. You'll see it all there.
But look, I'm 10 years older.
Yeah.
And I was interested, epic backdrop of the Spanish Armada, but I was interested in telling a story about a woman confronting the aging process. And, which is a very, a timeless dilemma for men and women. So.
It is said that when you were thinking about this, that Gregory Rush had a conversation with you, and he said, my dear, or whatever he would say, you don't pass these roles up lightly because of the passage of time, and you may not get that many juicy parts.
Well,
did he say anything like that you remember?
Yeah, Jeffrey.
Or is he just telling interviewers, I said this?
Spinning his story. I mean, the thing for me is, yes, it was a juicy part. There's a lot of juicy parts, and I've been fortunate to play
most of them, yes.
Play a lot of juicy parts. And last year was extraordinary, going from playing Hedda Gabler at BAM, and then going to play Elizabeth again, and then playing Bob Dylan. Right. And then my husband and I directed a Pinter and a Mammoth at the end of it. It was an amazing year. And so I didn't take it out of panic. I think my reservations were mostly about not repeating myself. And, there's a long legacy of actresses who've played this role, from Flora Robson and Bette Davis to Helen Mirren. And, so I just wanted to make sure that there was something unique to say.
I'm not building the case that you shouldn't have done this, in fact.
No, but
it's overwhelming that you should have done this, but just whether you had some reservations. And so what did the director who you'd worked with before say to you? Come, let's play.
Come, let's play. We talked, he asked me about a week and a half after finishing the first one, were we going to go back and make a second? And I thought he was joking. And we've remained friends and are constantly talking about doing stuff together. And he kept returning to the idea, and I thought, he's obsessed with this. And so it was really, in the end, I think he's a very persuasive man. And when you look at his first film that I saw, Bandit Queen, it's an astonishing film. And you know that you're not going to get the regular BBC period piece. And they're wonderful and fine, but they've been done, and so you're going to get a very particular take and a very kind of unique sense of truncated and telescoped chronology. He's not interested in history in a lot of ways.
So there is some literary license here.
Some. But, you know, it's a huge... Yeah. I mean, her reign was incredibly long and incredibly dense. Yeah. And you do have to choose events. And so by that, you are being selective in that way. So you will, you will make omissions.
Did you make up events too?
Shaker's always into sort of, you know, throwing in a perverse angle or a perverse
Well,
fact.
that's what I was going to ask. I read that somehow you'd come in expecting some kind of intimate close-up, and he's got the camera on the rafters.
The eternity shot, as you know, as we call it. You know, he will always film from, you know, under the chair legs, as opposed to when you're expecting it to be the money's here.
Why are you on my ankle?
Yeah, exactly. And you have to go with that. And because I'd worked with him before, and we've got quite a fluid working relationship, you know, that I love that stuff.
He lets you sort of be into the editing room and...
I didn't know. I'm not interested in that part of... I like to make sure that I've shaped the performance enough on the floor, you know.
Really, no interest in that? No interest in having him say, hey, come look at this. You know, there are two ways we can go here. What do you think?
I don't know, maybe some actors can have that level of objectivity, but to have stepped immediately... I don't know how film directors do it. To step immediately off the set and into a room where you have to have a completely different layer of objectivity, I wouldn't have been able to have it.
Do you think the training you're getting at in Sydney is going to set you up to make films?
I've never been particularly interested in films, to tell you the truth. I mean, acting in them or directing them. Not to say that, you know, if an offer came my way. I was asked to direct a music video not that long ago, which I was incredibly chuffed by.
What was
the
it?
offer. It doesn't matter what it was, but it was kind of cool. And I was really
Bob
pleased.
Dylan.
No, it wasn't. Bob did not call me. Bob has never called me, and probably will never call me.
Oh, no.
I don't know if he's...
How many women have
film.
played Bob Dylan?
Well, there you go, quite.
Quite, yes.
I wonder if he's seen... I don't know if he's seen the film. I don't know if he's read the script. He's a very elusive man.
Yeah, my guess is he has, you know.
But then someone told me the other day that he's such a shapeshifter that his grandchild is at their child's school, and he drives a yellow Hummer with a bumper sticker on the back saying the world's greatest granddad.
That's great.
Fit that into sort of, you know...
Well, the Hummer is a bigger thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
he keeps kind of expanding your sense of what he could possibly be.
When they offered you that role...
I laughed my head off and had to meet Todd immediately. And I said yes, and then said why. You know.
And you said yes because just the idea is irresistible.
It's irresistible. I mean, those offers just come along, you know, once in a lifetime. And it's a very... I mean, the script was written as an algebraic equation that only Todd could solve. And each section was divided, because he's divided Dylan's musical journey and his persona, whatever that is, into 6 different characters, none of whom are called Bob at all.
The persona is genius, I think.
Yeah. And my section was called A Rock Star Wreaks Havoc on His Electric Tour in the style of Fellini's 8½. And I went, I'm in. So,
that's what they said?
Yeah, that was the surtitle for
See, that's you, isn't it? That is you right there.
In
other words, if it's a challenge, and if you are completely having to climb a mountain you've never been up before, count Cate in.
Well, I think so, probably, ultimately. I mean, the challenges have to be there. I mean, otherwise you don't continue.
That's my point, though.
Well,
I mean, if it's a big challenge.
You've got to...
And what was the challenge of this one, then, of Elizabeth, the Golden Age? Is it age?
Age? I think... look, I wish they'd shot me more in a harsher way. I think, yeah. I mean, I think there's ways that you can light women that are kind, and there's way, as you are doing right now, Charlie. And,
is this kind?
Yeah, I hope so.
I
can't see. I'll tell you later. I'll download it and talk to you later.
Probably we're not sophisticated to afford kind lighting, but we'll see.
And then there's ways that you can do it that are harsh. And I was interested in making a film about, you know, the ageing process, so...
You don't care how bad you might look as long as it fits the character.
I tend to get compliments like, you're much more beautiful in real life.
Yes, I know.
I think, yeah, there's a compliment there somewhere. So, you know, I think it's... She was not a beautiful woman. No matter who she got to paint her portrait, the Henry VIII gene pool let her down significantly. And I think that, you know, I mean, any monarch, but female monarch in particular...
But that's on looks, not on other things. I mean, she was extraordinary.
Incredible diplomat.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that she kept England as stable as she did for as long as she did by using that sort of the marital negotiations as a diplomatic tool. I mean, it was absolute brilliance.
Now, just a bit about her. You pick up in middle age here. Where did Elizabeth, the first one, close?
Well, it's a Shekhar Kapoor film, so the time is very elastic. And if the book end of it was that she ended up in whiteface, which was a symbol of her very deep old age. So, but the time frame of the film, I guess, would have still left her as a relatively young woman.
And you pick her up? We
pick her up around the time of the Spanish Armada, which I guess would have left her at the age of about 52. Deep in menopause. and so
is there anything telling about that? Deep in menopause?
Well, I mean, that was just my supposition. I mean, because I began to sense the way the script had been written, that she was incredibly volatile. And I thought it would be interesting to sort of look at that from a bodily point of view, like how her cycle was actually disintegrating and how that would affect her mood swings. Because I was interested in the notion that as she got older, the prospect of her having a child became increasingly ridiculous, but she needed to keep that open for political reasons. And so what does a woman do when one of her, not only what's happening to her as a female, but what's happening to her as a politician, that she starts to lose one of her, strength in
one of the weapons in her arsenal.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And so,
one of her reasons for being.
Well, quite. And so I sort of looked at that from both point of views, what it meant for the country and what it meant for her personally.
And how accurate was this passion for Sir Walter Raleigh?
I think there were a lot of favourites, and Raleigh was one of them.
She was just one of many. There was nothing special?
Well, no, I think what we worked with in the film was the notion that here's a woman as cultured and expansive a thinker as she was, but she was bounded by the shores of England. She'd never left. And that was because of, it was too dangerous for a monarch to travel. You get in a ship, you may never return. And that she had this very vicarious relationship with Sir Walter Raleigh. And I think
vicarious meaning?
Well, living through him.
Right.
And so...
he was her adventurer.
Quite. And so I think it was... That, to me, was... Because she was having an amorous relationship with someone later on in life, I don't think you fall in love the same way. So I was interested in that vicariousness as opposed to it simply being a young girl in love.
Tell me how it's different when you fall in love later in life.
I don't know yet, Charlie. I was acting. I'm still incredibly young.
Now, you and Andrew have been married how long?
10 years.
And you got 2 kids?
2 kids.
And back at the Sydney Theatre, is it the Sydney...
The Sydney Theatre Company.
Theatre Company, yes. That'll give you time to sort of be home for those kids now, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, they've been young enough to travel with us and have had an extraordinary adventure, but,
And they loved it?
I've just finished doing the Indiana Jones film, and the boys have been at school
my God.
in Los Angeles, and they couldn't wait. They were cancelled all their play dates. They wanted to come onto set, the stunts and the cars.
That's what it is. It's the fact of who he was and what he did.
Yeah, and my eldest has watched half of the first Indiana Jones film, and he... you could see him grappling with the notion of reality and fantasy, that there was Harrison Ford, but there was Harrison Ford, and the whole notion of a character and a person. And there's very big concepts for a child to kind of grasp.
I mean, it is silly to even think they're thinking about what they might want to do with their life, isn't it?
They're being told what they want to do. Accountants, both of them.
But not lawyers.
No, not lawyers.
Investment bankers, perhaps.
Investment bankers.
That would be good. So that Mom's Theatre would be just fine for the rest of her life.
Quite.
So tell me what you're doing at the Sydney Theatre. I'll come back to Elizabeth in a second. Mm-hmm. What you've done a Harold Pinter piece?
Yes,
a short piece.
Yes, both Andrew and I got our first significant jobs, really, at the Sydney Theatre Company. His first play was put on there. And
he's a director and playwright, yes?
Yeah, and my first acting job out of drama school was there in a production of Carol Churchill's Top Girls. And last year, he and I did a double bill of plays. He did a one-act mammoth called Reunion, which was a wonderful play. And we paired it with a pinter, and we floated the whole thing on water. It was quite a night.
What was a pinter?
It was a kind of Alaska.
Oh, yeah.
And just to have those two playwrights in dialogue with one another, because they've been so influenced by one another, and they're so influential on the way we speak, and they understand language in a way like very few other modern playwrights do. So that was a really interesting exercise, and went down really well. But the current artistic director, Robin Nevin, She programs her season for next year, which we caretake, and then we program our first season in 2009.
But when you started out, did you think, I'm just going to be a theater actress and that's it? I'm not going to fantasize about film and all that film allows you to do?
It was never really a mecca to me, and also because the Australian film industry is so small, and I'd been to a theatre school. I went to
But you only thought in terms of Australia?
Yeah, don't know. All I said to myself was when I emerged from NIDA, which is the National Institute, I said, I'll give myself 5 years. And if I work, and, you know, then that's great, but I don't think I'll be able to... I think I would have turned into a horrid person. I don't think I could have negotiated the rejection, frankly. You've got to be honest.
You don't?
No, I think it's a terrible thing going to parties. It's sort of saying, like, you're a parking inspector. You don't want to tell people you're an actor, because if they say, what have you been in, and you tell them and they haven't seen the play that you've done, then somehow what you're doing isn't valid.
Yeah.
So it's...
Or they may not even believe you, because...
Yes, I know. You don't look like an actor.
Yeah,
you sound like an actor.
I saw the play, I don't remember you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's worse.
But I was lucky. I was in a production of Oleanna with Geoffrey Rush pretty much after coming out of drama school.
And have the two of you been great friends since then?
Yes, it was interesting. We've been able to sort of negotiate theatre and film and move between the two mediums in a parallel kind of way.
But that's the goal, isn't it? To be able to move in terms of... You clearly like movies. You clearly like what you can do with film.
And it's been a real education for me, because I was taken to the theatre more than I was the cinema. And so it's been a real, like working with Scorsese or Spielberg, your knowledge of the medium continues to grow. My appreciation of the medium continues to grow. There's
this great story, which is so about him, that I read about you, in which you wanted to see something that was an archivist film. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was Dylan, maybe whatever it might have been. And so you instantly knew there's one person will know. It is whoever worked with Marty in terms of his encyclopedic knowledge of film and what's on film, and the archivist or producers or friends who work with him. Yes?
I mean, I've called he's got wonderful, generous archivists, and you know, I do call occasionally and say I'm going to play a baddie. Can you recommend? And Thelma Schumacher, who's Scorsese's editor, wonderful woman. I said, please recommend, you know, some villains for me to watch. You know, and so it's great to have dialogue with those people who have the lexicon of cinema at their fingertips.
Now, when you were going to play Kate Hepburn in The Aviator, did you go watch a lot of Kate Hepburn?
I did, and the benefit of working with Scorsese is I saw it screened, and it was then that I truly, deeply appreciated the subtleties of her performance. I got the athleticism of her performances and how groundbreaking she was, and she's a powerful presence even on a small screen. But also what I began to appreciate was the camera moves, the direction of those films. Because prior to that, they'd just been really entertaining midday movies for me, because that's the only format that I'd seen them on. Yeah. And that's a wonderful thing about Scorsese, is he keeps the true art of cinema alive. He really makes you continually appreciate that.
Let's take a look at this. Here you are with your Catholic subjects in your council. Here it is, standing persona as a part of the exercise of power. You know, and sort of, it's as simple as generals who fashion a certain personality, then they become that person. George Patton is one of them. You know?
I mean, really, when you think about the power of a monarch then as compared to now, it was like a benign dictatorship. And I think with the divine chain of being, where Elizabeth is anointed by God, then your sense of your place in the world and the power that you have is so inextricably linked with your persona. And there's a fascinating fact about Elizabeth, is when she died, she became convinced if she lay down, she would die. And she stood in front of a window for something like 18, 20 hours. And she was, she was very ill and very old at this point. And when she was ready to die, when she could control it, then she went and lay down and died immediately. I mean, it was the sense of holding on to that power. I mean, if you let it go, then you let go of yourself.
Now, can you imagine coming back to her for a third time?
You've been speaking to Shaker? He's... Oh, dear.
Okay. I mean, has he at least crossed that... Has that idea been expressed to you?
He's a provocateur.
As he finished this, he said, maybe again.
He's a provocateur. He started talking about it in the second week of filming and almost shoved him into the Thames. You never say never to these things. And it goes without saying, she's endlessly fascinating. But so are many women in history. So is Pope Joan, so is Amelia Earhart, so is Hillary Clinton.
So is Catherine.
Yeah, quite. And so you think, well, what's the story?
Hillary Clinton. So somebody comes and they have a storyline of going from being one of the brightest in her class, being asked to deliver the commencement speech at Wellesley, chosen among students to do it. I mean, I'm sure they had a commencement speaker as well. You know, to make it, she was sort of then making a decision that she wanted to marry Bill Clinton and go back to Arkansas, adjusting to a very different culture, playing a supporting role, all of that. Tell me what you would want to know about her if you were playing Hillary Clinton.
I think now I want to know what's happened next. And I do think it's interesting where someone begins. I mean, if you think about someone like Al Gore, the environment, even though, you know, he was told when he was campaigning it wasn't particularly sexy to discuss it, it's still part of his gene pool. It's part of his blood. It's part of who he is, and you can't extricate that. Like you can't extricate Bush from oil. And I don't think you can extricate the care of well-being of children from Hillary Clinton. I mean, that was something that she's been interested in from the very get-go. There's something, she has a very strong interest in education, and I just think that's, so I want to see where that goes next.
More so than the power curve, the power relationship, and the idea of power and the idea of creating history, i.e. the first woman, she may very well be the first woman president of the United States. I mean, the idea of not only that, the historicness of if she becomes president, husband and wife becoming president, beyond just the first woman.
I mean, I think it's the package, isn't it? Like, in a way, it was the package before.
Tell me about aging, just, I mean, how you see this process and you know, and do you think about it at all? Do you think about it more now than you did 2 years ago? Or is it all something in the future?
It seems to happen in stages, doesn't it? Every 5 or 7 years you think, you just jump down a level.
Oh, God, I've gone through another 5, and
but
you know, it was different.
I don't know, I feel...
But it's also wonderful to...
I mean, each stage that I seem to have gone through has somehow been more expansive than the last. And you can either sort of embrace where you are and see the opportunities in it, or you can fight it. And I think that the more introspective and self-obsessed you are, the less engaged you become in living your life. And I mean, I think there's... So
you can be too introspective. But here's what you said. This is you.
Really?
Yes. Well, according to these people at The New Yorker, they're pretty good. They have fact checkers at The New Yorker. This is about motherhood and how it's changed your acting. You said, quote, I find it's made me more economical, more focused, more generous, less self-centered, and I'm great for it. You said, I remember embarking on Veronica Guerin after Dash, your son, was born, thinking I had nothing to give this project because I'm so filled up with this creature we've created. But I've become a better actor because of it. I think parenthood is knowing what cards you've got and then throwing them up in the air. You need to let go. It's like when you experience intense grief. You often have the deepest insight because the dead wood's being cleared out. When you're absolutely exhausted, somehow the work you've been consciously trying to do gets done on a different, deeper level.
When you let yourself alone, when you're not self-conscious. Like, how can you fall in love when you're thinking about yourself? You know, when you're at your most exposed, you're at your most engaged often, and I think it's just about, you do have to let go. I mean, you do a lot of preparation, and then you do have to give over control to the moment, and that's the adrenaline rush of being a performer, is you don't know what the audience is going to throw back at you that night. You know, I wish I had the courage to be a stand-up comic, because, I mean, to me, that's the ultimate kind of, you know.
I think so, too. It really is. I mean, to be able to go out there and test yourself every night, not knowing.
I've got a friend who does that, and I can only go and watch him every so often, because I get stomach ulcers with anxiety, you know, thinking, is it going to work tonight?
And what they think and feel when it doesn't work.
No wonder they're dark.
But here's what's interesting about this. This is eloquent, insightful. I mean, and yet you don't want to write and don't think you could write, and yet this is really interesting observations.
It's conversation, though, which is very different to...
Conversations make terrific writing.
Well, then maybe if it was a conversation, that's a different thing. I mean, I feel that when I sit down, I could never formulate my arguments when I was doing my Bachelor of Arts at university. My essays were... dog's breakfast. They were dreadful.
Dog's breakfast.
But yeah,
that's an Australian expression.
Dog's breakfast is a not a pretty sight. But when you have a dialogue with someone, and that's what I love about the theatre, is that's what the rehearsal process is you throw out an idea, and it's someone else is the devil's advocate, and they buffer it back, and the idea grows. I mean, that's what a great conversation is.
But is there some of that in terms of the way you talk about roles and interpretation? You know, you'll throw something out, he may respond to you, and you may come back, or does he leave you to create the persona and the...
A bit of both. I mean, he can be quite obtuse. Like, before we started shooting, he talks around a scene as opposed to directly going at it, which is quite interesting. And we had this long conversation, and he showed me a storyboard, an animated storyboard that he and Deepak Chopra had done for a film that he wants to make about the Buddha. And we got to
Deepak Chopra?
Yeah, and so they'd done this thing, and they run a comic book company together. He's a fascinating man, Shaker. And when we got to the end of this sort of, I guess, trailer for the Buddha film, I said, that's the story of Elizabeth. I mean, isn't that the film you're about to make? And so I knew that he was showing me this to see if I was going to sort of, to spark a conversation on a different level. So he can be quite sort of left
manipulative.
Yes.
What's the word you're looking for?
One way, maybe, yeah.
But for a good end. Here's what you said about your face. The greatest compliment I think I've ever had was when another actor said, I had an actor's face. There's a line in the Arthur Strauss play, Big and Little, where it describes a character as a woman, not old, not young, and I hope that I'm a woman, not ugly, not beautiful. I'm as vain as the next person, let's face it, but it's really important to try to shed vanity.
It's true, in life and in art.
Shed vanity.
I mean, you know, we try. We can but try.
It's great to have you here,
Thanks,
as always.
Charlie. Thank you.
Cate Blanchett, thank you for joining us. See you next time. I should know the film opens in theaters on October 12th. I'm Not There, theaters Wednesday, November 21st, in which she plays Bob Dylan.